Okay, everyone, we are on page 324. At the top of the page, it says, write and graph an inequality to represent each situation. Number 17. I bet you could do 17, 18, and 19 on your own. Please pause the video, try them, and then play the video and see if you did them right. Number 17 says the stock is worth at least $14.50. We have to write an inequality. And remember, when we write inequalities, we have to have a variable, an inequality symbol, and a constant or our number. So here on 17, the stock is worth at least $15. I'm going to pick the variable S for stock. So S is related somehow to the number $14.50. Well, when I think about what it says, it tells me over here that it's worth at least. That means it could be $14.50, but it could also be more than $14.50, right? It could be more than $14.50 or $14.50, but it's definitely not going to be less than that because it's at least $14.50. So our inequality is S is greater than or equal to $14.50. Now when we go to graph this, we have to find $14.50, which is halfway between 14 and 15. We know that the stock could be $14.50. So we make a circle and we fill it in so it shows that it could be $14.50. It also could be anything greater than $14.50. So it could be any number that lies over on the right-hand side of our number line. All right, that's number 17. Let's look at number 18. The temperature is less than 3.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Again, we're going to write an inequality. So we have a variable. I'm going to pick T for temperature. And I know it's related somehow to the number 3 5/10, or 3.5. Now I just have to figure out what inequality symbol would I use. Well, it gives me a hint right here. Is less than. It's not equal to, it has to be less than. So our temperature has to be less than 3.5, or 3.5 has to be more than our temperature. So to graph this, we come over. It cannot be equal to 3.5, so we're going to make an open circle at 3.5, which is halfway between 3 and 4. And our temperature can be any of these numbers on the left-hand side, any of these lower numbers, or numbers that aren't worth as much as 3.5. All right, number 19. The goal of the fundraiser is to make more than $150. Again, we have to have our variable. We're trying to find a goal, so I'm going to use G for goal. And our number that we're talking about, we're relating it to 150. And now I have to think, what inequality symbol do I want? Well, I want to make more than 150. I don't want to make equal to or less than. I want to make our goal is more than 150, greater than 150. So that's our inequality. Now when I graph that, I'm going to go to 150. Again, I don't want to raise 150. I'm going to leave that an open circle. I want to raise more than that. So it could be any of the values on the right-hand side over here. All right, we are going to skip number 20 and 21, and we're going to focus on number 22 down at the bottom. Number 22, critique reasoning. Natasha is trying to represent the following situation with a number line model. There are fewer than 5 students in the cafeteria. That's important. There are fewer than 5 students in the cafeteria. She has come up with 2 possible representations shown below. Which is the better representation and why? Well, before we even do this, I'd like to write an inequality. I know that the number of students, I'm going to say that's S, has to be fewer than or less than 5. So S is less than 5. So at first glance, when I look at both graphs, I look at this top one and I think, oh, that's it. It doesn't include 5, that's why it's an open circle, but it does include any number down here. But if we think about what the question is asking us, it's saying number of students. We know that when you color in, for example, between the 2 and the 3 right here, it includes all numbers between 2 and 3. That includes 2 and a fourth, 2 1/2, 2 3/4. There's tons of fractions in there that it could be, right? So then I take a look at the second graph and I notice there's only 4 choices. The number of students could be 4, 3, 2, or 1. And honestly, this second graph makes more sense because we cannot have fractional amounts of students. We can't have 2 1/2 students. We can't have negative students. We can't have -7 students in the cafeteria. And when we highlight something, we're saying the variable, in this case S, could be any of those numbers, and that's just not true with the first graph. But it is true with the second graph. So to write a good answer for this one, I'm going to say the second graph is a better representation because it does not make sense to have negative numbers of students or fractional parts of students. So we haven't actually seen that kind of graph before in part 2, but that's why it's important when you're answering questions to figure out what is it asking you and what actually makes sense, because in this case, it's the second graph. Okay, you are done with lesson 11.4. Make sure you use your book and you may take your quiz.